Hi everybody, welcome to Aderans UK Live. Welcome back to another Wednesday evening with Bradley and myself, and at the later time 8 p.m. Hopefully this will suit you a lot better because you've had time to get home from work, have dinner and sit down with a nice glass of wine or a G&T, which would be quite nice. Bradley's had green tea and I've had Earl Grey tea, so we'll be joining you later in something a bit stronger, no doubt. Welcome to this evening anyway. It's a really exciting evening. We've got something completely different to talk to you about this evening. A lot of you watching, a lot of our new viewers who are watching as well, might actually be concerned about hair loss. And here at Aderans, we're going to have that total solution for you of any type of hair loss that you might be suffering with. Hair loss is a condition that affects millions of people around the world. It's not a life-threatening condition, but it definitely does have that life-altering, and it has a really profound psychological effect on those people with hair loss. Whether it's that they're just beginning to shed more hairs than normal a day and they're finding more hairs in their hairbrush, maybe they're finding that their hairline is beginning to shrink back, or they just might have a problem with their scalp and they don't know how to cure it or what to do with it. Now at Aderans UK, in three of our salons in London, Hove, and in Birmingham, we're going to actually be offering that total hair loss solution for everybody. So it's like that one-stop shop where you can actually go along, find the right solution for you. And there's no pressure on you to make any decisions on that day. You're just going to be given all that advice that you actually need to. So it's going to be quite an interesting evening, Bradley, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got some really great guests with us tonight. We're having some issues with the sound on repeat, so you'll have to bear with us throughout the evening. Hopefully, you can hear what I'm saying right now. Is it coming through clearly?
Yeah, I can hear.
Okay, good, good. But yeah, it should be a very exciting one because I think something we've touched upon very, very minutely throughout the last few weeks is the difference in obviously going into a Trenco facility when you're ready to have that full head wig.
Yeah.
But there's so many other things available before you get there. There's so many different stages of hair loss, and the Aderans Hair Centre is just all about catering for everyone at every stage of their hair loss journey. So it'll be really exciting tonight with the guests that we've got to talk about the other journeys, the other paths you can take before you get to that full head wig, which I think, as Aderans, as Trenco, we're very well known for. But there's all these other things that we can do, and they're really exciting and come on so far with technology as well that I get a bit nerdy out, have a little nerd out over it. So
Yeah, it's going to be really exciting. I mean, we've been in the business now, Trenco, for 56 years, and Aderans for slightly longer, and we've been as an Aderans company now for quite a number of years. So to be able to actually offer something for everybody and not just for those people who want a wig or a hairpiece, it's, I think, really exciting for those people because not everybody's actually ready to actually go into a wig or a hairpiece. And at the start of their journey, they might need some other kind of help and some other advice. And now we're going to actually be able to offer all of that. And we've got two ladies who are going to be joining us this evening. We've got a lady called Elizabeth Smith, who actually works in our London branch. So you'd be able to catch up and speak with Elizabeth in London and make any appointments with her if you live in that vicinity or it's easy for you to travel into the city. And here in Hove, we're welcoming back Emma Furlong. Emma was a member of staff with us for a number of years. So she's actually coming back into the Aderans family again, which is lovely. It's lovely to introduce new staff and get them into our fold, as is Elizabeth is completely new. But with Emma, she's actually one of the old members of staff that we've actually had here for a long time. She was actually on our management team, and during that time, she actually learned an awful lot about the hair loss business. And then she left, had some children, and she actually got her own company doing semi-permanent makeup, and she also works for the Finishing Touches group as well. So she's a trainer and had lots of experience within the hair loss market. Elizabeth has been working with hair loss now for 4 years. Prior to that, she was actually trained as a hairdresser as well, but moved into the hair loss. So I think it's now really, Bradley, that it's time we introduce both ladies, and then we can get them to introduce themselves and just tell us a little bit more about their background.
And just before we do that, I just want to reiterate, we're all really excited here about everything that's going on, but I know that there's a lot of you at home that will have a lot of questions that you want to ask both Elizabeth and Emma tonight as things come up with all of the different paths you can take with us within the Aderans Hair Centre up and down the country. So please do keep those questions coming in. I can see some popping up already. We're live on YouTube, Facebook and Instagram. So I can see everything on my screen in front of me. I like to have complete control. So please do send everything through and I will put those questions to the guests tonight. And if you also have any questions for Jane or myself, those are welcome too. So should we bring the girls in?
Yep, I think we're all ready for them. Hi, Elizabeth. Hi, Emma.
Hi.
Lovely to have you both back with us. Welcome, Emma, to the Aderans. Emma, Elizabeth, to the Aderans family. Lovely for you to join us, and welcome back, Emma.
Thank
You're
you.
back with us again, which is really good. Everybody would a lot of people will recognise your face and know who you actually are. But welcome back to both of you. We've done a small introduction about what we're going to be talking about this evening, about the different solutions that we can actually offer people if they're not quite ready to go into a wig or into a hairpiece, if they might have some hair loss problems or they might actually have problems with their scalp and wondering what products to use. So as we go through the evening, we're going to have lots of questions coming through, and we've got lots of questions we'd like to put to both of you. But first of all, to you, Emma, would you like to just tell us a little bit about your background and how you come to be where you are today?
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. Thanks very much for inviting us, Jane and Bradley. Thanks for inviting us today. So, yes, I am an old face of Aderans Trenco. I was part of the management team up until I think probably about 7 years ago. And I left to have my children and start my own business in micropigmentation. So I quickly progressed to specialize in scalp micropigmentation using my hair loss knowledge and background with my newfound skills in micropigmentation. And honestly, I've never looked back. It was the perfect marriage for me. Don't tell my husband. I said that, but it was, the two things coming together was just wonderful. Since then, I've worked with the Finishing Touches group, and I am their head educator in the hair loss division. I've been lucky enough to travel the world teaching medical professionals, SMP, and practicing throughout the UK. So I offer SMP treatments, and I'm a trainer and an educator for SMP, and also I'm currently studying to complete my Trichology certificate. So everything hair loss just brings out the complete hair loss geek in me, and I love it. And really, coming back to be part of Aderans is a real honour. And I really want to be part of the total hair loss solution and helping people find the right solution for them.
Fantastic. And we're really excited to have you back with us as well, Emma, which is really good. It's going to be a real asset, I think, to the whole team and to the whole company as well. And I'm just going to pass over to Bradley. We do have a little bit of kind of tech issues slightly between me and Bradley. So this evening, if you hear me keep saying I'm passing over to Bradley, it's because I don't want us talking over one another at all. So across to my man.
She's under strict instructions tonight not to speak over me. No, we're all good over here. I think we've got some slight echoes that are coming through, and I think it just resolves itself, and then it kind of comes and goes. But we'll work with it. It's just the beauty of technology. So Elizabeth, you're new to the Aderans family, which we're all really excited about. And I was wondering if you could just tell us a little bit about your background and, you know, your life and how you got to be where you are now.
My life. It won't take long. It's not been that exciting. So my journey into hair loss began as a hairdresser, and my sister was diagnosed with breast cancer, and obviously the chemo was going to take her hair away. So we needed to find a solution. So that was kind of my first road into covering anything about hair loss and wigs and all that goes with that. I started my hairdressing journey at the age of 13 in my local salon, sweeping, making tea. And on a Saturday afternoon at the end of the day, I even had to do the vegetables for my boss for her Sunday lunch the following day. So I'm quite sure what I had to do with hairdressing, but hey ho, I learned how to prepare spinach. So after I moved abroad and closed my 2 hairdressing salons, and I'd been doing quite a lot of wig work in the salons, and I decided that I wanted to understand more the reasons behind the hair loss, why people lose their hair, and what's going on and what can be done about it. So I did my trichology certificate both here in the UK and in America, and qualified 4 or 5 years ago. I've run my own clinic for the last few years, but this opportunity's come up with Aderans, and I jumped at it. I'm on board.
Brilliant. Well, that's great. I mean, there's a whole world of experience there. So you've been across the pond as well, which is really exciting.
Yeah, that was
brilliant.
Great.
Well, I have a question that's just going to be such a difficult one to answer, possibly, and it's so broad. What is trichology? And what is a trichologist? What do they do?
Well, trichology is the study of hair and scalp. So a trichologist is the person that looks at your hair and scalp and interprets what's going on and can tell you why something is happening, whether it be a skin condition or a hair condition or a hair loss condition, because all 3 are different.
So it's a little bit more sciencey and more in depth and going more into what's going on rather than just, you know, I have hair loss, what can we do about it?
Yeah, so it's more a case of why it's happening, not what can I do about it. Although that comes into the equation as well, it's more a case of understanding what's happening within the body and causing the problem that you're facing, whether it be a skin problem or a hair problem.
So, how would I know if I needed to see a trichologist?
I think if you've got any concerns about your hair or your scalp, then you need to see a trichologist. Most people will go to the GP first, but GPs, I tend to find, have been very dismissive of any hair loss issues and even scalp issues. So in fairness to a GP, they have to cover a multitude of conditions, don't they? And hair is not up there. The NHS don't see it as a medical condition, even though psychologically it's going to have a huge impact on someone and actually put a burden on the NHS. The actual hair loss is seen as cosmetic. So I think for most people, if you've got any concerns about your hair or your scalp, you should go and see a trichologist, because they really will be able to tell you exactly what's going on and what you can do about it.
Excellent. Yeah, because a lot of people are probably out there and they're probably thinking, do I have a hair loss problem, or is it just related to my diet, or maybe it's just their actual health or medication that they're on. So by making an appointment to come and see somebody like you or Emma, you'd actually be able to kind of pinpoint them and signpost them in the right direction to what they need to actually be doing.
Yeah, when you come for a consultation, it is quite in depth, and we do ask you a lot of questions about your lifestyle, you know, what jobs you do, what's going on in your life, any medication that you're on. And there's so many red flags that will point you to what's happening: diet, stress, lifestyle, hereditary. You know, there's so many flags that will spring up as we go through the questions, and it could be that there's a combination of those things going on that is causing the problem. It might be that you just need to look more closely at your diet and have an iron supplement for some hair loss issues. It might be that you need to reduce the stress in your life that might resolve some of the issues, because stress also can cause the skin conditions as well as the hair loss conditions. So it's a really in-depth consultation. It's not just, you know, sit down, I look at your scalp and give you a one-stop answer. It's far more complicated than that.
So, if I was coming for my first visit with you, what would I expect? Would I need to bring a lot of different things with me? So, it's like the evidence of what I actually take medically and everything. Would you be needing a lot of reports from my doctor, or would I just come along and just have a chat to you?
So what we would usually do is, obviously, we'd have a telephone conversation. You would phone up the salon and ask to speak to me, and we'd have a quick chat on the phone about what's going on, and then I would email you our questionnaire, which you would fill in prior to coming to see me. Usually, it's not essential that you do that. We can do it on the day, but the more information that I can have prior to seeing you, obviously, the far more in-depth consultation we can have, because it's much easier to sit at home and write down all the medication that you've got. I'm not a doctor. So medication, you know, there's a few that I would recognise that might cause a problem, but there's obviously many others that I wouldn't, without a little bit of research on my part. So the more information you can give me, the better a consult that you'll get. You'll be with me for about an hour. So, you know, it takes quite a while. We'll go through the questionnaire. I will physically look at your hair, and I'll also look at your scalp. So I have a scope that will magnify the scalp either by 50 or 200 times. So we can really see in great detail what's happening on the scalp and almost under the skin. So yeah, it's quite fascinating, and most people are absolutely horrified when they see their scalp, because we enlarge it on the screen, and everyone's like, "Oh, that can't be. That's on the head. What's that stuff?" Quite amusing.
It's not the prettiest, is it, really? Not the prettiest. You can see every flake and every little bit of skin. It's not very nice.
No, it isn't.
It is fascinating, though, where you can see the hair follicle. If you've got two hairs growing from that one follicle, it is quite incredible. And I think, when, as you mentioned, using the scope for that examination, I think then when patients are with you, that's when it really hits home about how they do look after their scalp, or how they don't look after it properly, isn't it? I don't know if you've ever had it done, Bradley, but it is quite shocking when you see it for the first time. Yeah.
I haven't had the scalp done, but I can imagine if it's anything like looking in the other side of some people's bathroom mirrors, you know, the ones that come out from the wall and they've got the magnifying side. Never again. Never, ever again. But something that I wanted to actually ask you, Emma, is how does the process differ for you when people come to see you? Is there, you know, do you benefit from getting like a bit of background information prior to the consultation? How's the process differ for you?
So if it's an SMP consultation, a hair loss consultation would be in the same way as Elizabeth just run through. But in SMP, we also have to get quite a complex medical history, because there's quite a lot of contraindications to treatment for SMP. Again, medical, there's quite a lot of medicines that contraindicate, and also lifestyle. So there is the same process. We discuss the requirements, we discuss expectations, we talk a lot again about lifestyle. There's an aftercare process with SMP where the treatment has to be kept dry for 4 days and can't be washed for 7. So we have to discuss the implications of that. And we have to talk about the ongoing treatment plan. So SMP isn't just one session and you're done. There's an average of 3 for the initial treatment plan, and that's then followed up either annually, biannually, or up to every 5 years to refresh the pigment. So yeah, consultation-wise, we don't need to look through the scope for SMP. We don't need to scare them with the scope for SMP, but we do need to assess the treatment area. We need to check that the skin is suitable for treatment, and that also we are working within the parameters of treatment. So if we're looking to add density, is there enough hair to add density to, or are we looking for advanced male pattern baldness at the shaved effect? And again, it is making sure that the patient understands the parameters of treatment. And it is an amazing treatment. It is, but we've just got to make sure we get it right.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we've actually just had some questions and some comments come through. So one of our watchers tonight says they're studying trichology. 1 more module to go. They find it fascinating. Yeah, another has said they would love to have a scalp analysis just to see what it looks like. And finally, a question which is probably something we should have covered. What is SMP? So if you'd like to tell us exactly what SMP is, what it looks like, the end result, that would be great.
Yeah, sure. So SMP stands for scalp micropigmentation. And scalp micropigmentation is using a needle and pigment to implant medical grade pigments into the scalp to mimic the hair growing out of the scalp. So as I briefly just touched on, it works in 2 ways. One, to mimic a shaved effect for advanced male pattern baldness, and also to give the illusion of increased density for male and female clients. So women who have postpartum hair loss, who have female pattern hair loss, who have general thinning, telogen effluvium. We talked about stress and shock loss. We can give a solution whereby we're camouflaging the skin. So we're distracting the light and we're giving the illusion of more hair growing in that area. So it works in 2 ways. It's every single treatment is bespoke. So every single treatment is tailored to the client from colour through to density placement, where we're going to put the pigment, how long they want it to last. So everything's, bespoke. It is suitable for so many conditions. And also for scar camouflage. So we do a lot of treatments within the hair transplant industry, because there's no such thing as scarless surgery. And with SMP, we are able to give the ultimate finishing touch to somebody's surgical hair loss journey by camouflaging the scars and neutralizing them, blending the scalp.
Oh, excellent. So you can blend all the colour as well then, Emma, to somebody's actual scalp. Whatever colour scalp they got, you're able to mix your pigments to actually blend that colour for them.
Yes, so we have 2 different types of pigment. We have a shorter term pigment, which has slightly more tones in, and that's based more on the traditional micropigmentation pigments, but specifically developed for SMP, for the scalp. And the longer term pigments are carbon based. So they're more based on traditional tattoo pigments, but they have been created specifically for SMP. And so what we do is we either dilute the longer lasting pigment to the correct shade, or we mix the shorter term pigments to get the correct shade. And it's, so again, it's completely bespoke. We choose the color based on skin tone and hair tone. And the main words when I'm teaching SMP is that it has to be future proofed. These are like my 2 favorite words. My students are like, she's saying those words again. So we consider the color that we're using and to how we want it to age and mature long term. So we take into account the natural hair aging process and depigmentation, so greying, and everything's taken into account on that patient's particular treatment plan.
So if you've got somebody who is going grey, or they're like a 50-50 blend, they've got dark hair, but they've got 50% of grey coming through, or they're quite white, you're able to actually blend those kind of shades and colours for them?
Yeah, so you're looking at the base shade, you're looking at the predominant shade in the scalp, in the hair, and you're looking at what steps somebody's taking. So for example, somebody who is greying and who tells me during consultation that, yep, they're not going to dye their hair, they're going to embrace the grey, they're going to go natural, then I need to tailor my treatment to age appropriately with them. So I may need to go look at more of a short-term pigment in the interim, before we get to the stage where we can look at something more long-lasting, or vice versa. We have a lot of female clients who continually change hair colour, so it's not just the grey. Somebody loves to be blonde in the summer and snow white dark in the winter. We have to go on those lighter tones and colour the pigment accordingly.
Okay, so a question we've actually had come through that kind of follows on from that is, does SMP require upkeep?
Yes. So as I said, it's not a one treatment, you're done, you're out the door, off you pop. It is a treatment plan. So average of 3 sessions, and they can be from between, an hour and a half up to 4 hours per session. If you're looking at advanced fat and baldness, for example. And then you have those first 3 sessions. And then if you're using the shorter term pigments, you're looking at a between 9 and 12 month top up. If you're using the longer term pigments, it can be up to 5 years before you will need a colour refresh. Pigment in the skin is like any form of pigment. Think about clothing, UV susceptible. There are environmental factors. Again, what we put in our body impacts how the skin behaves, because it is a living organ. So, medication, nutrition, everything plays a role in how that SMP is going to last long term. So yes, it does last a long time in comparison to somebody that has to use daily topical treatments, like sprays and topics, but it does need upkeep.
Okay.
How safe is it, Emma? And do you need to have a skin test before you have it done?
You need a patch test, yeah. So at consultation, you would have a patch test where we can test the colour if we feel that's necessary, or we can just test for insurance purposes, so that everybody gets a colour patch test. Yeah, so we can do that. We can offer, obviously we've had to adjust everything that we do for COVID. So we are able to send out patch testing kits for people who are doing virtual consultations, just to try and minimise the amount of journeys people have to take. But there does have to be a patch test before every treatment, every first treatment.
And once you've had your first treatment done, what would I expect it to look like? Is there a healing process that the scalp would need to actually go through?
Yeah, so it's minimally invasive. So there is redness on the skin where we've just caused a stimulatory response from the great stuff underneath that comes up to go, what are you doing up there? I need to come and fix it. But because it is one dot and we move on, there isn't any blood, there isn't any swelling, bruising, well, there shouldn't be. It is minimally invasive, so you would expect it to be a little bit red, a little bit itchy as it tingles and heals for a couple of days. The biggest issue is that it has to be kept dry. So people that want to wash their hair, that is the biggest bugbear. But it's a little bit darker when it's first done, and it lightens over the space of a week. With the longer lasting pigment, you can have your second session in 2 weeks. With the shorter term, it's 4 weeks, just because of the way that the colours are made. So you notice something after the first session, but you really get the full result after the third session, particularly with density treatments. Quite a lot of my clients, I say to them, don't expect to see anything at the first session, and then by the third session, I promise you will see what I mean. And a lady sent me a video of her in her bathroom mirror the other day going, I didn't believe her. I didn't believe her. After that first session, I thought, this is not, yeah, no, what have I done? Third session, wow, she was right. I'm like, yeah, I did tell you. It does take it. It's done that way. It's done subtly for a reason. We can build easily, but we can't take away.
Yes, it's having that little bit of patience, isn't it, really? It's having it done, a little bit of patience to actually get the result they actually do want, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
A great thing for people to actually have, though, isn't it? For that, beginning stages of hair loss, FFA, frontal fibrosis and alopecia, little pieces of scarring tissue, because you can go into the scarring tissue as well. That if they don't want to wear a hairpiece or have any kind of piece made, it's that other solution for them, isn't it? Which is
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah, definitely. It does offer a solution to a really broad-based range of people affected by hair loss. We see people at the very beginning of thinning, diffused hair loss, right the way to, post-surgical and everything in between. So we quite often see people that have researched and done everything possible that they can, and we're that last step. And we see a lot more people now who we work in combination with other therapies, with trichologists, dermatologists, aesthetic practitioners, PRP nurses, and surgeons. The world has woken up to SMP, about time, and it's fantastic because we can work with other professionals like trichologists to ensure that the scalp skin is in its best condition and the existing hair is being cared for properly. So yeah, it really does work fantastically well in combination.
Well, that was something I was going to actually ask you next, Elizabeth, and that is, how would you deal with positioning the SMP? Would it be kind of like something you do later on, or as a combination? What's kind of a common thing for you to experience in terms of patients? Do some of them already have SMP, or how does it go?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very broad spectrum. It really varies. It would obviously depend on what kind of hair loss they were suffering, as to when you would kind of say, okay, now you can go step over to this other treatment and enhance that with what I'm telling you to do, because I think it's a great combination of the two things. I think with the SMP, it can also psychologically really boost someone into feeling so much better within themselves. Because what I do takes even longer than 3 weeks to see the result. So, if you're on a program with me, we might not see any results for 6 to 12 months. Hopefully, usually under the scope, we can see some activity happening and some improvements within 12 weeks. But you're still not going to look in the mirror and think, after 12 weeks, I'm looking better. So the combination of the two actually is so powerful, because the psychological effects of worrying about your hair loss can actually increase your hair loss. So if by having the SMP, you're feeling better about yourself and you're not worrying about your hair loss so much, the actual benefits will then also come out in your own hair and its rejuvenation journey. So the two together is a fantastic combination.
Okay, I really like this. I was just going to say to you, Jane, I really like the idea of this all being like under one roof. So you kind of just hop from one thing to the next as you go through your journey and just get looked after.
It's brilliant, I think. Yeah, and to have those 3 different locations that we got, London, Brighton, and Birmingham, we're covering a vast area of the country as well. And I'm sure it's going to be expanded out across the country in our Aderans shops as we go through. Elizabeth, can I ask you, what packages do you actually offer? You mentioned that you do different treatments and do different packages. What kind of packages do you offer, and what would somebody expect to actually be offered when they come in to see you?
Yeah, so with the packages for hair loss, it would include some treatments in clinic. So they would be some scalp health hygiene sort of regimes with me, which would involve sort of washing your hair and some head massaging and with products. The program would also include some low-level light treatments.
What is low-level light treatment?
Low-level light treatments is hugely beneficial to hair loss. It's a non-medical, non-invasive treatment, and basically you just sit under a red light.
Amazing.
So how it works is, if you were when you were a child, you used to have a torch and you'd put it on your hand and you'd be able to see kind of through your hand. So it's that kind of theory. So what the light does is it penetrates into the epidermis and the dermis, and it encourages rejuvenation. It encourages the cells to grab that energy from the light and start rejuvenating itself. There's no side effects to it, and pretty much anyone can have it. So it's a really great treatment for rejuvenating the skin and the hair growth. But
would they have to come into the salon to have that done, or is it something they can actually do at home as well?
Both. So obviously the light treatment that you have in-house is obviously a greater strength of lights, because obviously we have a bigger unit that you sit under. But you can buy individual units that you can use at home. So if coming into the clinic is not feasible to do once or twice a week, then having a home unit is perfect, because you can use that, watching Coronation Street or whatever it is you want to do. You just pop it on and switch it on and job done.
Well, Jane, I was just going to say to you, this is ringing alarm bells in my head because of the hair spa, which has the red LEDs.
It does have the red LEDs on the hair spa, yeah. We introduced the hair spa last November. It was just before Christmas, wasn't it? And I don't know, a lot of our viewers out there might have seen it. A lot of people have actually purchased it. It's a great, and Bradley's been actually using it regularly at home, haven't you, for your hair growth? And has actually been finding it really helps. That actually massages the actual scalp, but you've got the red LEDs on it as well. So that's another thing that you can use that will actually help with your hair loss and just help to stimulate that hair growth. We don't promise that it'll grow the hair back, but it just helps to stimulate the hair growth, which is quite important. If somebody, both to Elizabeth and Emma really, if somebody was going through chemotherapy and radiotherapy, would they be able to have SMP, or would they be able to come and see you as a trichologist to actually, get some help with their regrowth after treatment?
Shall I go first?
Go for it.
So with somebody that's going to lose their hair through medical chemo or radiotherapy, there's not a lot you can do. And the reason that those medicines attack the hair follicle is because they are made to recognize a cell that is continually changing, because a cancer cell is continually changing. And a hair cell is the same, because it continually grows, continually changes. And the chemotherapy isn't clever enough. Well, there are some now that don't affect the hair quite so badly, but for the majority, it doesn't recognize that it's a hair cell and not a cancer cell. So it will attack it in the same way. So that's why the hair is lost. So there's not a lot you can do for the hair, but it's very important that you think about the scalp and the skin, because during chemotherapy, the skin can become very paper thin and very sensitive. So you have to think about protecting it from the sun, because you've had your hair doing that for you forever and a day, and suddenly there is no hair there. And also keeping it cleansed in a safe way, because again, you don't want to be putting any sort of harsh products onto your scalp that are going to cause irritation, because that's the last thing you're going to need, because your scalp is going to be so sensitive.
Okay, brilliant. And Emma, the same to you as well, really, for your SMP.
Yeah, so in terms of SMP, insurance-wise, we can treat 5 weeks post or pre radio or chemo, but I personally wouldn't recommend treating post chemo for 12 months. And the reason why is because of exactly what Elizabeth just said about the skin. The skin is hugely compromised along with the hair loss. And our bodies are so wonderfully complex that they need a little bit of time to self-rectify sometimes. So it can take up to 12 months for the hair growth cycle and all that great stuff, dermopapilla, everything to reattach itself and grow the hair how it was growing before. Quite often people comment after chemo that the hair grows back very differently in texture and curl pattern, colour, and that can take up to 12 months for the cells in our body to have their little chat with each other and say, hang on a minute, we weren't curly and grey, we were blonde and straight. I think we need to get back to that. And so we might be treating somebody with low density when actually that density is going to come back. We might be treating somebody who's got a condition that has to be given the opportunity to fix and self-rectify. So I say 12 months. But again, good treatments in clinic, scalp massages when the skin's ready for it to help rejuvenate the skin and cause that stimulatory internal response that we want to get with the good stuff coming back past the follicles to see what's happening on the skin. So something like the hair spa could be a really great way to encourage that skin on the scalp and the growth to come back to what it was.
And also, I think when someone has been ill, they obviously haven't been eating as well as perhaps they should do. So that's going to take, again, many months to get back into the system. And the body's very clever and it doesn't think that hair is essential. So if there are any nutrients that are deficient in the body, unfortunately, the hair is going to be the last place they get sent. So once you're feeling better, you're eating better, then things are going to improve. And again, with the hair spa, if you're stimulating the scalp, what that does is brings more nutrients, more oxygen to the place that it's needed in the hair follicle. So any of that stimulation actually does create a much better environment to rejuvenate the hair.
Okay, so something I was going to actually ask the pair of you, but you kind of covered some of it there, is we've had a lot of questions come in about coronavirus and hair loss due to COVID. Is this something that you guys, recognise? What's the kind of truth behind that? Is there anything that you can do? Any packages or ways that they can kind of help people that are experiencing that?
Yeah, so with COVID, we are seeing some hair loss issues after people have had it. The hair loss that is related to that is usually going to be something called telogen effluvium. And what that means is that the hair growth cycle is 3 stages. So there's the anagen stage where the hair is growing, the question stage where the hair is still within the follicle, but it's not growing anymore. And then the telogen stage is when hair comes away. So at any one time, all of us have got 10% of our hair in the telogen stage. And telogen effluvium happens when there's been a trigger that disrupts that cycle and you're getting more hair going into the telogen stage. And one of those triggers is suffering from a febrile temperature, which is a very high temperature. Stress. So if you've been seriously ill, again, the stress of that. So again, there's a number of red flags that COVID throws up that could very easily result in hair loss. But it's unlikely that you would see it immediately. You would probably see some shedding or increased shedding sort of 6 to 12 weeks, even 12 weeks to 6 months after the event. So again, you have to look. With trichology, we're often looking back in time to pinpoint a trigger.
It's interesting, isn't it, really? All these different things that can actually happen to actually give us hair loss or actually make our hair a lot thinner. And, it is, you might have had a shock, you might have had a death in the family. And it's those little things that will actually trigger it into somebody's system, isn't it? And as you said, if you can go back and actually do a lot of history, that's why it's so important when somebody comes to either of you for your consultations, isn't it? So you can pinpoint that early stage where it actually happened. What are the most common questions you actually get asked when you come for, or the most kind of common conditions that you mean to actually treat?
I think the most common two really is androgenic alopecia, which is obviously male and female pattern baldness. I mean, 80% of men will suffer some form of hair loss in their lifetime, and up to 40% of women. So, you know, that's a huge number of people that are going to suffer some form of hair loss. So they're the most common. Telogen effluvium, again, that's another one that I see a lot of, because that can be caused by after pregnancy, during pregnancy, illness, stress, bereavement. So again, that's right up there with some of the others. But then some of the more complex ones are the alopecia areata, which is the patches, bald patches that can form. What other ones have we got? Frontal fibrosing alopecia, that's seeing more often.
More and more.
Yeah. But I'd say they're the sort of the most common.
Yeah, I would say within our salons, with our hair loss salons, FFA or frontal fibrosing alopecia, that in the last 5-8 years is steadily grown and grown and grown.
Yeah.
Whereby you used to think of it as being in a more mature person, a more mature lady, is actually coming through in a lot more younger ladies now as well. So that is a really huge factor, I think, for a lot of people trying to find that right solution for them, isn't it?
Yeah, and also what you need to remember about FFA is it's a scarring alopecia. So, you know, if it's not treated, not that there's a treatment that can stop it, but there are treatments that can improve the condition. And the sooner that you have that diagnosed, then the better the results will be, because they can, you know, we can kind of halt what's happening.
Can you treat people with lupus? Because lupus, that's a scarring tissue as well. That leads to scarring tissue, doesn't it? And
Yes.
lupus can actually either affect all of the head or maybe just an area of it. Are you able to actually treat people with lupus?
Again, any scarring alopecia is not treatable. Once the scarring has occurred, it's permanent. But what you can do is you can protect the hair that's not been affected, and you know, hopefully prevent it spreading. So that, you know, make it, if you have a small patch, hopefully trying to prevent it from becoming a larger patch, and preserving the hair that's around it. So there's lots of treatments that you can do, and I also think, again, psychologically, if you're doing something about your hair loss, it empowers you and improves your hair.
Yeah, I think that goes with any problem you've got with life, isn't it, really? Whether it's hair loss, another medical problem, a mental health problem that you might have. If you feel that you're physically doing something, you initially start to actually feel better about the whole situation. And sometimes all people need is just a consultation with you, just to actually have that little chat and feel better, isn't it? How much would a consultation cost if somebody rang up to make an appointment with you?
With me, so the initial sort of phone chat would be free, and sometimes it might be that I can just give a small amount of advice to somebody that they don't need to come and see me. But if it's something that does need to be looked at in more depth and diagnosed, then obviously I would suggest came to see me. The cost of the consultation is £85, but that does, I would also give you a complete report after the consultation. So you could either take that to your GP if you've not spoken to them before, or if you had spoken to your GP before, it can either help you get an answer from him if they've been somewhat dismissive of you. But you know, there are certain forms of alopecia that I would immediately send you to your GP saying you need to go and see a dermatologist, you need to refer to a dermatologist. So it's not all about me being able to help you in a physical way. It might just be that I'm prompting you to go and see the person, pointing you in the direction of where you need to be. Not just with SMP, hair pieces, whatever it might be. It might be that I say to you, you need to go and see your GP, and you don't be fobbed off with this, because this is a scarring alopecia and it needs to be treated by prescribed drugs, which I can't do.
And I think, you know, that is really quite reassuring to anybody who's been listening tonight, and they're thinking of maybe making an appointment to come and see a trichologist, to come and see you, Elizabeth, or you, Emma. And they're thinking, and there's a lot of kind of talk about trichologists over the actual years. It's all a bit of like mumbo jumbo. Does it actually really work? And I mean, us knowing and working with hair loss, we know that we can really help those people. But I think you saying that, Elizabeth, it's a really honest answer that you will pinpoint them. You might not just keep them on one of your programs, and you might point them back to a GP or to go to a dermatologist. I think that's lovely, Bradley, isn't it? To be that honest, I think, with those patients or clients that would be coming through your doors.
Definitely. At the end of the day, my passion is hair loss, and to make people feel better. And I'm not going to sell snake oil and tell you that your hair's coming back. I'm going to tell you what's happening, and who's the best person to help you, whether that be within the Aderans Hair Loss Centre, or whether it's go and see your GP, go and see a dermatologist, go and see a surgeon. You know, I'm going to point you in the right direction.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, thank you, Emma. Yeah, no, I think that would reassure an awful lot of people out there that it is something that they're going to get a completely honest answer with, and they can get pinpointed in whatever direction you actually want to go to. I know that you're doing a range of products now in all of the actual Aderans salons, your metaceutical products.
Yep.
Can you tell us a little bit more about them, how they actually treat people, and what different conditions you're actually looking at when you're using your metaceutical products?
Yeah, so the metaceutical products cover a whole range of hair and scalp issues. So the hair loss products are mainly for andronic alopecia, which is the male pattern and female pattern. And there are other treatments that they do are more skin complaints like psoriasis, eczema, seborrheic dermatitis. I can't think of anything else.
Dandruff. Yeah. I've got some great dandruff products.
Yeah, thank you very much. But again, it would be better to, if you have got something that's slightly more severe than your average sort of dandruff complaint, book in and see a trichologist. They'll be able to tell you which products are the best. But if it is just a very light dandruff, then these products you can buy over the shelf and treat yourself at home.
Brilliant. They are lovely as well. I've tried them and they are absolutely beautiful, the products.
They're lovely.
Yeah.
They smell so fresh.
Yeah. Yeah, we've all had a little go at them and they are absolutely fabulous. So yeah, I think any clients coming in, they'd be quite happily walk out with a bag of those products. They do really work and they are actually great to actually use. Have you used them, Bradley, yet?
I was just going to say to you, you're all saying you've all tried them. I haven't had a go.
Oh,
Bradley, you're missing out.
I know. I think we're going to have to get me in the basin afterwards. Get the hair bar out. I'll have a massage. And
Yeah.
Again, we'll give you a nice little treatment, an in-house treatment with
We're going to get you under the scope as well.
Oh, no.
Do you know something? And I just thought, just thinking live then, we should actually do that live with Bradley one evening when we're actually live on a Wednesday night. So Bradley can be our patient, Emma can be doing the scope, and I'll be talking. So yeah, we can have a little look at Bradley's scalp.
We're escaping it now, Bradley. She said it's out there.
It's going to happen, isn't it? It's going to happen.
It's happening.
It means you can have a good shampoo afterwards and a hair spa. You love all of it, so come on. Yep, it's worth having a scope done just in case.
There There we go. Well, I had a question that's actually come in, and it's something that I'd quite like to know about as well. And that is about derma rollers. Do these help? I've seen a lot of things like this going around. I'm intrigued myself.
Yeah, derma rollers are a popular product at the moment, and they've evolved from skincare into scalp treatments. And I mean, I personally have found the effects of them incredibly effective on the scalp. I do a treatment in clinic that's very similar to a derma roller, but is an in-clinic treatment. And to be able to then give people a derma roller system to use at home to continue that treatment and like prolong the effects, if you like, is really useful. I think that they are becoming more and more effective. The right type of roller used in the right way, that is the only downside. Some of them are a little bit fierce, and you do need to know what you're doing. So it is good to have guidance prior, but they are a really fantastic product. I think you also like them, don't you, Elizabeth, in clinic?
Yeah, I think they're great. They because they create a puncture wound as such. Obviously, the body wants to repair that, so it's another way of stimulating, getting all the good stuff to the scalp.
Yeah.
And also, if you derma roller before you put some of the topical treatments on, again, it really helps the absorption into the skin and getting the stuff in there. Because
Yeah, because you've got different depths, haven't you, as well,
yeah,
of the rollers. So I guess you build on that as you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. Makes complete sense.
Because you can use them on your face as well, can't you? And
Yeah,
that would actually just help stimulate the collagen. Is that right?
yeah.
that
Um,
is.
yeah. Yeah. So that's one we've not done, isn't it?
Well, I
Yeah.
was going to say I tried the pore vacuum at one point.
Oh,
Disaster. And the reason I ask about the derma rollers and the different sizes is because, of course, with the pore vacuum, I thought, oh, that doesn't feel very strong, and put it right up full and bruised my face all over.
Oh, yeah, that is the only issue with at-home treatments. So it's always good to try and get the advice in clinic first and get a fit-for-purpose
Yeah.
roller. So some of the pre-infused rollers out there are the best at home because you don't need to worry. It's a lot of it's about the glide on the skin and less friction.
Yeah.
So if you can get one of the pre-infused rollers that are out there, then they are fantastic.
And you'd be able to recommend the ones so that people like me stay off of eBay and don't end up with severe bruising before they're going, say, on a date the next day, which is a true story.
Oh, no.
is this something that is a product that you were going to actually be able to buy through any of our Aderans stores?
Yes, it is. Yeah. We have been trialing different derma rollers, and we have found that we've been trialing a pre-infused roller that is more gentle than some of the other fierce ones out there, but still gives you the result that you're looking for. So, like I say, we have an in-clinic treatment where we're using a unique needling system that doesn't puncture the skin but abrades it to encourage collagen stimulation and also stimulatory response on the scalp, wound care. And this would be the at-home side of that. So it's something that also has a fantastic serum in to create that stimulatory response and condition the skin.
Brilliant.
Win-win.
I think Bradley will be buying one of those.
Have hair spa in one hand, that in the other.
We'll get you on a live with that as well. We'll do the scope and the roller all in one.
Yeah. Yeah, you'll enjoy all that, isn't it?
Oh, yes.
Absolutely. I think it's been quite an eye-opener this evening, isn't it, about all the different treatments that we're going to be able to actually offer now and in the actual future through all of our Aderans centres as well. For anybody watching, if they want to make an appointment or speak to Elizabeth, you can ring our London branch on 0207 221 2646. And Elizabeth is actually there working already. She's been with us for the last month. So you can make an appointment, you can call up, ask to speak to her, and just have some advice if you need to. Emma's going to be joining our Hove branch very, very shortly. So if you want to actually get an appointment in place, you can always ring our Hove branch on 01273 778516. Or if you want any more info about anything we've talked about tonight, just email us at info@trainco.co.uk and we'll be able to put that email in the right hands for the right person to actually answer you and give you any advice as well.
Well, should we let these lovely ladies get on with their evening now?
I think so.
I think so.
9 o'clock.
It's 9 o'clock. Well, thank you so much for joining us. It's been really lovely to actually meet the pair of you, because I've not met the pair of you or seen what you even look like in 3D until tonight. So this has been there we are. So it's been a lovely first encounter. Really eye-opening, as Jane has said. And we'd love to have you back on soon.
Yeah, anytime.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you so much, both of you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye.
See you all soon. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
So amazing evening, Bradley. We're going to be able to do a few treatments on you.
Can't wait.
Scalp all sorted. Yeah, get that hair spa working and the derma rollers. But no, it's been really good. Lots of nice comments as well from everybody. It's been good.
You have a full MOT live on air.
Yeah. It's gonna get good.
Well, if anybody wants any more information or needs to have the information in terms of the phone numbers or salon addresses, or would like to visit any of the premises that we've discussed tonight, we've also got the phone number and address for Birmingham, where we'll also be offering some of these services. Just check out the websites below. That's great. Look, I've got one finger above each website on the screen. That's really good. So check us out online. There's a lot more information there, probably a lot more than we'd be able to discuss in one of these lives. There's so much to get through.
Hair loss, what you can actually do, and what other options there are for people apart from just having a hair piece or a wig. So there's so much out there.
I think I've lost you, Jane, on the
Did you
thing.
lose me then?
I think so.
Yeah. Yeah, I know my ear says they've just been pinging.
Maybe you're on a low battery. Well, I'll wrap this up for you on your behalf.
Thank you.
There we go. Well, thank you so much for joining us, everybody, tonight. We're actually taking a break next week. Jane and I are having a nice lay down. It's been a long time coming, I think, but we'll be back the following week. We've got a very, very exciting guest. We've got Alexander Turnbull joining us from Aderans USA, Renault Paris, which is very exciting. We'll be looking through his range, the Alexander Couture range, his favorite pieces from that. We've got some giveaways, we've got some live demos. It's going to be a really good one. So you can join us again, and that is on the, it's the 9th, isn't it? 9th of June. This year is flying by, but the 9th of June. Yeah, 9th of June, 8 p.m, right here on any of the platforms that you've been on tonight. So thank you so much again, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, see you all soon. Bye, everybody. Bye.